September 2nd, 2020 at 4 p.m. This meeting is held through remote participation, and it is pursuant to Massachusetts Governor Charles D. Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 12th, 2020. This meeting is also live streamed on YouTube. Anyone wishing to make a comment can do so by calling 1-929-205-099 and using an ID number, which is 958-4971-1300, or by using a Zoom link. I would also say that anyone who calls in, we cannot see you. We just see a number. If you need to put a hand up because you would like to speak, you need to press *9. And if you are muted, you need to press *6 to unmute. So if I'm not seeing a hand and you want to just speak, you can press *6 and say, I'd like to speak, and then I can recognize you when it's time. I'd like to begin the meeting with a moment of silence to honor our troops who died in service to our country and all those serving in the armed forces. Thank you. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance. Unfortunately, Janice has the flag. Oh, there it is. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll? And anyone who's come on, Janice has camera trouble. That's why it's a black square.
Douglas Brown.
Brown here.
Mary Chafee.
Here.
Terry Gallagher.
Here.
Lillian Green.
Here.
Elizabeth Harder.
Here.
Christopher Kanega.
Here.
James Killian. Suzanne McAuliffe.
Here.
Deborah McCutcheon.
Deborah's in the hospital.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
dear.
you. Thomas O'Hara.
Yeah.
John Oman.
Here.
Brian O'Malley.
Here.
Randy Potash.
Here.
Patrick Princey. Linda Zern.
Here.
Madam Speaker, you have a quorum with 68.57% of the delegates present. 31.43% are absent.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the calendar of business. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
There's a second. Okay. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Douglas Brown.
Aye.
Mary Chafee.
Yes.
Terry Gallagher.
Yes.
Lillian Green. Elizabeth Harder.
Yes.
Christopher Kanega.
Yes.
Suzanne McAuliffe.
Yes.
Thomas O'Hara.
Yes.
John Oman.
Yes.
Brian O'Malley.
Yes.
Randy Potash.
Yes.
Linda Zern.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, the business calendar is approved with 68.57% of the delegates voting yes, 31.43% are absent.
The next is the approval of the Journal of August 19th, 2020. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Was there a motion in a second?
Excuse me. Is there a motion in a second?
I move to approve the Journal of August 19th, 2020.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Now we can vote.
Doug Brown,
Yes.
Mary Chafee,
Yes.
Terry Gallagher,
Yes.
Lillian Green,
Yes.
Elizabeth Harder,
Yes.
Christopher Kanega,
Yes.
Suzanne McAuliffe,
Yes.
Thomas O'Hara,
Yes.
John Oman,
Yes.
Brian O'Malley,
Yes.
Randy Potash,
Yes.
Linda Zern.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, the Journal is approved with 68.57% of the delegates voting yes, 31.43% are absent.
Thank you. Next is communications from the Board of Regional Commissioners. We have Commissioner Bergstrom with us.
Yes, here I am.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Looking out of my rainy, cool backyard. It's amazing how we look forward to cool, rainy days now, huh? After a hot summer.
Yes.
Well,
Hot, dry summer.
Hot, dry summer. Well, good afternoon. We did not meet today. Jack has been out for a week or so because of the death of his family. His sister passed away. I spoke to him last week and told him that there was no pressing business that needed his immediate attention. I suspect that he would be back on Monday. He emailed us today saying he's going to take a couple more days off and then he'll be back. So probably not going to be available at the end of your meeting to answer any questions. I don't know if you have staff members there. I don't see Steve Tebow's name. So any pressing questions you have on ongoing business, you're going to have to ask me, and I can't promise you I'll have the answers. We did meet the 26th of August. We had our weekly update on the COVID-19 epidemic, and the numbers on the Cape are very good. Very few cases, no hospitalizations as far as I know, and certainly no deaths. So the Cape has been, fortunately, much better off than the rest of Massachusetts, and I'm hoping we get an even more optimistic report. One wonders how far down we're going to have to go in these numbers before we can start opening up the Cape's economy, but that's up to people above my class, above my pay grade. So we did have a discussion on expanding the county's nursing program, and there's a proposal that will be given to us to hire 2 18-month positions in the health department, 2 nurses to assist with the health department and also the town health departments with ongoing issues regarding the COVID-19. I don't know if you've gotten the budget update, but the budget, the revenues in the registry of deeds continue to surpass our estimates. So we're trying to do what we can. The commissioners and also Jack, do what we can to assist the towns any way we can dealing with the issues that they face. And one of the ways we're doing that is to hire 2 nurses to assist both us and them. I pressed Sean on a budget and also on a job description, and he hopes to get that to me. I haven't talked to him directly, but the messages I told him I'd like to have it by next Wednesday. So you'll have an ordinance in front of you, in front of the county commissioners to approve that program. Once again, we addressed the petition by the town of Barnstable to reopening, discontinuing a county way on a Lane. You remember we voted to do this last week, even though Barnstable Town had not even sent us the petition. Since then, they voted to send us a petition. Once again, we agreed to accept it. So we're turning over that county lane to the town of Barnstable, which, according to many people, we had already done years ago, but records were lost. We have 2 ordinances which I'm going to present to you. One ordinance is to add to the county's dredge operating budget for the fiscal year, coming fiscal year 2021, by making supplemental appropriations of $65,000. We had set aside, we hired a new dredge manager. We had some issues. We had some money in the budget, the 2021 budget already. This is a supplemental budget of $65,000 to add to that. I don't know off the top of my head the salary range. I think it's maybe more than that, actually. But it's not just that, it's a couple other things. Then we have another ordinance to add to the county's operating budget in this fiscal year. By ordinance, this is ordinance 20-04. The previous one was 20-06. And making supplemental appropriations of $449,297, and I'll run down that real quick. We have emergency management, $150,000. We have a salary in the operative extension department of $85,660. We have the fire training equipment, which we purchased of $63,000. And we have a solid waste recycling study. I don't know if I addressed this with you previously. Actually, I think we did have a PowerPoint. We're looking to locate a solid waste facility at the base. So this is a $150,000 to flesh out that proposal. And the total amount, as I said, was $449,297. That pretty much covers what we discussed last Wednesday. And if you have any questions, here I am.
The dredge amount you said was 65,000 or 85,000?
65,000.
Okay, and is that coming, that's an enterprise fund? So
That's from the enterprise fund. It
Okay,
still
so
has
it's
to be
just-
appropriated.
Or just moving money within the fund then?
Right.
Okay. Any questions for Commissioner Bergstrom?
I have one. I'm sorry.
Yes, Doug Brown.
I don't know if it was my feed or yours, Ron, but I couldn't hear what the 20-04 was about, please.
20-04 is a combination of several supplemental appropriations bundled into $449,297,000. Solid waste recycling study was $150,000. The fire training equipment, which we recently purchased, $63,000, and the salary in the mission department is a total of wages $63,000, employee benefits $21,000, Medicare $910 for a total of $85,000 in that position. Also, the emergency management department requested $150,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
We'll get all the detail on this in writing. They're submitting it today. We'll get the copy of the ordinance, and then at our next meeting, we will have a public hearing and an opportunity for further questions and discussions. So you can have the numbers in front of you then.
I should add to the dredge. We brought the dredge up. I received from Steve the schedule of proposed dredging projects. It didn't have the time schedule, but a number of projects listed. I don't know if he copied that to the assembly or not, but if he did, I will.
Thank you. No, I didn't get that, so that would be very helpful. I think even though it's within the enterprise fund, I think for the next meeting, obviously just a little, information on these specific ordinances from Jack or Steve or whomever would be very helpful.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Tom O'Hara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions on the dredge. I don't know if now's the time or not, but you were seen to going beyond the budget. The work group that we talk about so frequently with the dredge, can we get a list of who is on that work group? For I know my member wants to speak to the other members on the boards, the work group. And also, if we could have a list of the chain of command for the dredge program as to who is who, and a list of who's in place or being hired, just so we can get a grip of what we're doing and be able to move forward. We had a tough year last year in Mashpee. I'd like to get this moving in a positive manner.
All right, the dredge group, I don't know if all of them did, but I know many of them did. I got an email saying that they sat down and they fleshed out the schedule together. I will get you the names of those people. I've requested it myself before. I'm sure they're lying around somewhere, and I will also get you whatever further information you can on the organizational chart of the group.
I'll follow up with an email, Ron. I'll send an email.
Any other
Perfect.
people?
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah.
Questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Ron.
All right. Good.
And obviously, too, if people have questions, they can always email Jack earlier in the week, and we can email the question and answer to everybody, too. It doesn't have to wait until the next meeting if people have something that they want to discuss sooner. Thank you. Next item would be communications from Open Cape. We had the Executive Director, Steve Johnston, present.
Hello, can you
Hi,
hear me
Stephen.
okay?
How are you doing?
Good. It's a pleasure to be back here in front of you. I think the last time I was in front of you was October 2018.
I think were we in the Harbor View, I think.
I believe so, yes.
Yes. Yeah, that was two places ago.
Yes. So I'm happy to speak with you. I'll give you a kind of a brief overview for the newer members. I can quickly cover maybe some background things, and then I'm happy to answer questions. I'm sure you all have questions. We've been in the news a lot. We've been doing a lot of things, so you may have questions that pertain to your town. But when I spoke to you back in 2018, we were experiencing a phase of growth. Things were looking pretty positive. For those of you who don't know, Open Cape is a nonprofit organization. We own 550 miles, route miles of fiber. That's map miles. Almost 100,000 fiber miles. And we cover the Cape, part of the islands, and I'll talk about that as well. And about 35 southeastern Mass towns. We connect in Providence and Boston to what are called the internet hotels. That's where we peer with tier 1 internet carriers. We service municipalities, businesses, large and small, schools, education, and I can kind of run through that. And as of last night, we officially turned up our first residential clients in a pilot that I'll talk about as well. So since I've spoke to you in 2018, I think many of you remember I joined Open Cape in 2015. We still were working with a company called CapeNet, which was our for-profit partner. Their responsibilities were selling and maintaining the network. That relationship didn't go too well. So we terminated that relationship in the September of 2016, and we brought the sales, marketing, and maintenance of the network inside. And I'm happy to report since that time, we have seen our growth, about 600% growth over the past few years. So we are incredibly busy. We have a strategy, which I'll mention here. Our initial strategy was to connect those businesses that were near or close to our network. And the plan there was that would make the network strong and sustainable. We could keep the lights on, we could hire people, we can reinvest, we can maintain the network. And I'm pleased to report that has gone swimmingly well. We're doing all those things. We're hiring staff, we're creating jobs, we are growing the network, reinvesting in the network, maintaining the network, expanding it, running some pilots. We are being philanthropic and giving away things that we feel pertain to our mission, and I'll talk specifically about that. But at this point, I think things with Open Cape are going very, very well. We are in a very strong financial position, so I don't have to worry about keeping the lights on or how am I going to make payroll or any of those issues. We are really planning for the future. In fact, our network is, without giving you too much tech speak, the topology of our network is a series of rings that allows us to offer added redundancy to our clients that we serve. And we're in the process right now. The max I can offer someone is about 100 gigabits of service. Coming in December, we'll be boosting that. We'll be increasing the infrastructure on our network. So we'll be at about 400 gigs. So if someone wanted 400 gigs worth of service, we could, not that one person would want that, but multiple clients combined. We're spending about almost $300,000 to upgrade the network this fall. So it's going well. And feel free, if you have a question, raise your hand or speak up. I'm happy to interrupt and stop and proceed again. We in addition to connecting enterprise customers, when I say enterprise, I mean business, small and big. 99% of our customers take one kind of service from us. That is a dedicated symmetrical service, which means you guys are all on Zoom today, so you have probably Comcast. Dedicated means your signal never changes. It doesn't go up or down. It doesn't slow down when kids get out of school. Sorry about that. It doesn't slow down when there's a snowstorm, and the kids are home from school. It doesn't slow down on July 3rd when the Cape is inundated with people from off Cape. So dedicated means if I'm giving you 100, 500, 1 gig, 5 gigs, 50 gigs, that's what you get always. And it never varies. It never vacillates. It's dedicated 24/7, 365 days a year. The other thing, symmetrical, is just what does it sound? Your downloads and your uploads are equivalent. You're getting 100 down, 100 up. Now, in some of our projects that I'm going to talk about, we have one of the first ones we've done is the Falmouth Main Street project. So the Falmouth Main Street project, if you haven't heard about it, really grew out of an initiative where the businesses on Main Street in Falmouth came to the EDIC and the Chamber of Commerce and said, we can't process credit cards. Now, in my world, that's a pretty low threshold. That's right akin to breathing. If you can't process a credit card, you can't operate your retail establishment. And it simply was, I'm not here to beat up on Comcast because I don't do that. But it really was just a byproduct of, in the summer, when all of our communities expand, the legacy network from the incumbent provider simply couldn't handle the traffic. So we worked with the EDIC, the Chamber. We worked with Senator DiMacedo, Representative Vieira, the Falmouth Selectmen, Board of Selectmen, and we received $80,000 from the EDIC, and Open Cape put up the other $250,000, and we built out the remaining part of Falmouth Main Street we hadn't built out. But what we did differently is, so in my world, we have our backbone, which is exactly what it sounds like, is the main trunk of our fiber, 144 strands or 288 strands, depending on where you are. But in order to offer this service to small businesses, we had to build additional fiber called distribution fiber because we don't want to chew up the backbone. The fiber on the backbone it's like gold, and you want to be very specific on how you use it, where you use it. So when we come to someplace we know we're going to do a lot of building, we'll also lay distribution fiber so we don't have to cut up our main backbone. So we built out distribution fiber in downtown Falmouth, starting about Gifford Street and working our way west. We immediately had about 50 businesses sign up. As of today, we have connected, I think we're about 41 or 40. We have a crew actually in Falmouth today connecting folks. COVID slowed us down a little bit there because we couldn't go into businesses, we couldn't go into and do installs, so we had to kind of wait. But the good news is those 50 that'll probably grow to 100 by the end of the year. Those businesses are seeing they have got a shared gigabit connection. Now, we can do one of two things when we deliver service like that. We can give have it be a free for all where you can get a full gig down and maybe a full gig up, and then if someone else is using, they may get less. We put some filters on it, so on average, people see about 350 megs down and about 250 megs up. Really reliable, super steady, and they're paying $117 a month for that service. The service breakdown is $80 for the service, $20, $27 on the service of the loan we took out to pay for it, and $10 into connection fund. All those businesses got connected for free that we paid. We're trying to rebuild that connection fund so the other businesses continue to get connected for free. So early results are very positive. We've connected a litany of businesses in downtown Falmouth. And I'm actually looking at spending some more money to build east up Main Street so I can connect some more that we have on our list that would like connectivity. So the thing that's really important about this technology that we're using in the Main Street, this Main Street initiative is called GPON, Gigabit Passive Optical Network. It's the same stuff that Google Fiber was using, the same type of technology, the same technology they're using. AT&T uses it, Google Fiber, pretty much all the ISPs use it. So it's the exact type of equipment I would use if I was to provide service to you guys at your homes. So very similar. So that was a pilot, an important pilot for us. Likewise, we have installed the same servers and backbone in Hyannis. and that is allowing us to light up some MDU projects, multiple dwelling units, and turning up our first residential service last night, matter of fact. I didn't turn it up knowing that I was coming here today. It just worked out that way. It was a happy coincidence. But 255 Main Street, and is it possible for me to share a screen? Can I show you something, or is it?
Yes.
Okay, let me host disabled sharing, screen sharing. Okay.
Ian?
Yeah, let me enable it real quick.
Because I can just show you some images, and that might, rather than me just talking, it might be a little more. Oh, here we go. Perfect.
All right, you should be good.
Let me just push it down here. Let me see here. So here is the. You all see a map of downtown. This is downtown Falmouth. Can you see a map?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that was the downtown Falmouth I was talking about. The green line was our backbone fiber that came down to Gifford Street over here, then went up to power the Lawrence and the Morse schools. So we effectively built out, and the pole lines in downtown Falmouth are behind the stores. So we built out on either side, the blue and red lines, and then down back down to MacArthur Boulevard, where we proceeded to connect Woods Hole. And on the next slide, it should have changed. This is how we do our planning. So we actually go building by building and figure out what buildings are in there. We allocate for how many stores, residences, whatnot, and we plan so we know how many terminals, where we're going to place terminals, where we're going to splice. So for us, this was a learning exercise, because typically we're connecting one building, one client at a time. This was multiple buildings. So it really got our process down in how do we work in a multiple process environment. We change slides again here. Show you this. This is 255 Main Street in Hyannis, the Folsom building. It is a historic building. It's right there across from the CCRTA, next to Heritage House Motel, right on Main Street. 11 residential units, 2 commercial units. And as you can see, this is the map of where our fiber comes up and comes over and connects. This is the speed test I ran last night. 1,069 down and 916 up. So that's a full gig down and almost a full gig up and down. So this project is up and running. We're doing a couple more of these residential. This is the inside. These are closets inside the Folsom building. So this is the panel. I pulled out the router here, but everything fits nicely in a nice little box in each unit. And the cool thing about this particular, go ahead if you have questions. Someone has a question. Okay, no. Okay. The really interesting thing here is the landlord is including the internet in the rent, so that you're getting it whether you're at a market rate apartment or a subsidized apartment.
He's on first.
Peter, I'm going to just mute you. Or can you mute?
And we'll kind of go from there. This is 306 Breeds Hill in Hyannis in Industrial Park. This is the industrial park down here. We're also doing this building. This is 49 units. This is Joe Keller and Bruce McGregor's project. We'll be doing this later this fall. We've already run fiber within the building. So these are some of the projects we're working on right now. I just want to show you some visual images versus just hearing me talk. Those are important because they are it's never going to be a scenario where Open Cape has the money to connect the roughly 100,000 households on the Cape. We're going to have to continue to work with the towns. Falmouth, I hate to talk about Falmouth a lot, but on the scale of who's got it together in terms of connectivity, Falmouth's at the top of that list. They have the Falmouth Community Internet team is working very effectively, looking at building out fiber across all of Falmouth that they would own. They'd plug into Open Cape and power every home in Falmouth. Yarmouth is having some good conversations there as well. Prior to Town Administrator Panagore leaving in Provincetown, and I know they've had some issues up there and they're busy. We were making good progress in Provincetown as well. So, but I am having other conversations with lots of other towns. I continue to be surprised. I live in Sandwich, and Delegate Killian is not on. Sandwich is the Stone Age of the internet world. So I will just say that. And I can say that because I pay taxes here, and yes, the wheels are still square in Sandwich. But we're working on that. We are making progress. So, yes, Doug.
We met a couple years ago with a group of citizens from Buzzards Bay Avenue area in Woods Hole that wanted to put up the money ahead of time to do the infrastructure. Yep. We were waiting for Main Street. Do you think now that we're almost in a position to consider that project?
Well, so we have built down into Woods Hole all the way down to Water Street because I connect part of Huey's change of heart where they were acting as the ISP for all of Woods Hole, and now they want everyone off their network. We're connecting NOAA, MBL, Pie in the Sky, Coffee Obsession, the Market, all the way down. We wrap the corner by Water Street to NOAA, and then we work our way up. So there are a couple areas where we're looking at very hard doing a pilot of 20, 30, maybe 50 homes, individual homes. Mm-hmm. Right now we've been focused on doing MDUs, multiple dwelling units, because quite frankly, they're new construction, they're easy, and like that 255 building, my fiber goes right by it already anyway, so it made it very user-friendly in that sense.
Right.
Woods Hole is one of these areas, and it's funny, I was on you have one of Barack Obama's cabinet members, staffers lives in Woods Hole, and I see him on MSNBC all the time. It says live from Woods Hole, and he's doing a Zoom cast. So we are indeed reaching out to him to talk to him about getting him connected, just because we could use that PR. But it is Woods Hole. Yes,
Stephen, your issues then are still financial. When you came before us 2 years ago, residential was way far in the future. You were looking more at trying to deal with commercial and municipal because it's just so expensive. Do you see a path to get financing to get more residential connections?
Well, I think the best model forward, Suzanne, is so there's roughly 100,000 houses on the Cape, plus or minus. For me to connect all of them is going to cost somewhere between $85 and $115 million. Now, yes, I could do that, but it would probably take me 50 years to earn that money to do that, or less. So the best way forward, the way that makes the most sense forward, and what other towns in the Commonwealth are doing pretty regularly, Charlemont, Leverett, Alford, Otis, New Marlborough, Egremont. The real dynamic here is the Commonwealth, the governor and the administration has spent about $100 million on Western Mass connectivity in the last 4 years. Now, I grew up in Western Mass, a little town called Sheffield. I still own a house there, so I speak fluent Western Mass, so I can say this. There's not a whole hell of a lot of ROI you're going to see back on the connecting that. But at the same time, places like Mount Washington or Egremont or Otis, literally I own some land in Otis, and there's 800 people that live there. There's not one business. So when I talk to the governor, my issues are parity. Like, why is it okay that you're spending all this money on Western Mass and you're not investing in the Cape and the islands? And that kind of, I'll talk about the IT bond bill and where we stand with that right now. But the administration has been hesitant because they're of the concept, they believe that Comcast adequately serves the people and the businesses of the Cape and Islands, Southeastern Mass, and that's not the case. I'm not saying they don't do a good job, and even during COVID, they've done a pretty good job. I thought they would go down much more than they did, but they did a pretty good job, and I'll give them the credit where they do. Although I like hiring all their people now that they come and work for me. But that's kind of our focus. So the way I really see the best way forward is for the towns, and I know in some towns this is heresy from what I'm going to say, is The towns are going to have to say, look, if we really want great connectivity in our town, we're going to have to come up with a plan. We're going to bond it out. We're going to build connectivity to each town. We're going to own that process. It becomes a revenue stream for the town. They control the process. They maintain the pricing. They plug into Open Cape. I mean, basically, I've used this analogy before. We're the Autobahn, and I'm doing the best I possibly can to try to connect as many people as I can. But we're the Autobahn, and you have to build your exit ramp into us because, we didn't, yes, we got $40 million, and that really, all of that went toward building the backbone. And yes, we're sustainable and we're growing. I paid for the lateral down into Woods Hole. I'm building other laterals. We're reinvesting in the network, but in order to scale, so it's usable in our lifetime, I need an infusion of cash from someplace. And the only way I can see that happening realistically is for towns to move ahead and bond that out. And that's kind of what's going on in Falmouth. They're doing the work right now to see if it's feasible. They're doing the financial studies. What are the take rates looking like? In Leverett, before they laid one piece of fiber, they had 83% of the households signed up. By the time they started building, they had like 94% of the households signed up. And basically what they did is they built to every home in Leverett, Mass, whether you wanted service or not, because they knew at some point you're going to sell your home, you're going to change your mind, you're going to want the service. We're already just going to connect your house. You're not going to pay for service. At least your house is connected. That's the most efficient way to do it. And the simple math, just so you can all do this in the back of your notepad tonight, the national average to connect a house to fiber internet is $2,500 per home. So you take the number of homes in your town times 2,500, and that's your top number. That's your most you're going to spend. If you do the whole town at once, if you go up one street and down the other and are super efficient, I think Leverett pushed that number down to $800 or $1,000 a house. So let's be safe. Let's call it $1,200 a home. That's your low number. That's what it's going to cost to connect every home in your town to fiber. Somewhere in between those two numbers.
I think 8 months ago, 9 months ago, people would have said, oh, gee. But I think the last 6 months have really shown the country how important the connectivity and how dependent we are on it. So it may be a different discussion now than it was 9 months ago.
I think it is a much different. Yeah. The one good, if there's anything good to come out of COVID, it has shown the bright light on the need for connectivity. So the minute COVID happened, we did a couple different things. And this is what probably differentiates us from other, all of our customers, several hundred of them, all got an email from me saying, if you need additional bandwidth, whether you're a town or a school or whatnot, we'll give it to you 100% free. So in some cases, we had people that had a gig that wanted 2 gigs. Some people who had 50 megs, they wanted 500, whatever, done. So right now, currently, I have 63 customers that are getting free service, not free service, free increases in half. We continue to subsidize very heavily police, fire, EMS connections. So a normal dedicated 50 by 50 megs over 50 meg circuit for a business would be about $450 a month. Police pay $113 for that. Fire the same. So we subsidize police, fire. We give great deals to the schools. We connect 33 libraries on the Cape. They have the same subsidies that the police and fire have. And actually, we've also set aside an additional $50,000 that we're working with libraries to outfit them to broadcast their signal, kind of like we've done in Eastham, to the parking lot. And that is a huge, I can't impact students any other way. I connect 17 of the 18 high schools on the Cape, another 50 middle and elementary schools, both in my footprint. But the best way I can reach kids outside of school is in public spaces, because I don't have a huge installed home base yet. But we figured by using the libraries as a central point, at least people can go there and get great connectivity for free. And so,
what would you do with the governor's? How much money is do you anticipate from the governor's IT bond, and what do you think you would do with that?
So the IT bond bill, Representative Peake and Senator Sear came to me and said, "Hey, we have 24 hours to add amendments to this bond bill. What do you have?" Luckily, we had fully scoped out Provincetown and Chatham, as well as some strategic laterals on the Outer Cape. So when I say scoped out, basically recreating what we did in Falmouth in Provincetown. So if you're familiar with Provincetown, I'm halfway down Bradford Street right now. The farthest west I go is Provincetown Commons. We would go down Bradford Extension to the west end, and then back up Commercial, creating a loop in Provincetown. That would allow us to connect probably the bulk of the businesses that were right on either Bradford or Commercial, as well as any adjacent or above apartments or residents. So that would be an excellent use of some money. I figured about $450,000 right there, just ballparking that, to build, manage that, outfit it, license poles, replace some poles. Some of those poles were placed there by the Pilgrims when they stopped. So we need to do that. Likewise in Chatham, we would further extend down Main Street in Chatham. Similar type of initiative. I figured I'd spend another $350,000 there. A little bit I would spend extending the fiber east on Main Street in Falmouth. Of the 1.7 million that Representative Peake and Senator Sears submitted for Open Cape, 1.3 would be spent on the Outer Cape, and the rest of it would be spent on other strategic projects across the Cape. I'd be specifically looking at extensions in Eastham, Wellfleet, and Truro, connecting places like Outer Cape Healthcare, those type of places that are not connected yet but need to be connected. Also some of the cultural and nonprofit organizations, looking at some of those. I would spend some of the money. So really quickly, I have a 10 meg fiber circuit out to Nantucket, which is basically useless, 10 megs. I mean, we're using that now. We're using more than that right now. It's like fiber dental floss. It's completely useless. I have nothing out to the Vineyard. I have a 1 gig microwave shot, but anytime I go aerial through a microwave, my throughput, if I send a gig, I get about 600 megs on the other side. So it's not really an economical use of our time. We've been working with Nantucket, Representative Fernandez, a bunch of different folks on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard about what it would cost to run fiber, real fiber, a significant amount of fiber out there. We're looking at about $25 million to get the boat here. It's an expensive undertaking. The good news is I'm really, really good at finding money. That's what I do. And there's a lot of really rich people on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard that will gladly foot that bill, I'm hoping. So I've started to have some of those conversations with individuals who really care about the community, understand the necessity, particularly in this COVID period, and hopefully we can move that forward as well. But I would agree that now during COVID, you're talking about schools, and right now it's even crazier for us because I have 5 kids myself, ranging from 19 to 3, and everyone's going back to school. So all the schools are freaked out right now about, are they going to have enough bandwidth? Nauset just changed. They were doing in person, and now they're doing all remote based on some ventilation stuff they have going on. So I've actually upgraded them just yesterday from 1 gig to 3 gigs to make sure that they have enough bandwidth. And we'll figure out how they're going to pay for that later, but we're making it available to them. Sandwich, Falmouth, Mashpee, they've all pushed their bandwidths up. Barnstable, Harwich, Monomoy, they've all got enough bandwidth, and I've got enough that if someone needs overflow, I can make it available to them. So, yes, I think the climate now is for us to capture. The amazing thing, and it's worth mentioning just right now, is the amount of calls we're getting right now from people who are second homeowners and have fled Boston, New York, Philly, Albany, whatnot. And I can't even tell you, I get probably 10 calls a week. Hey, Steve, my wife and I are lawyers from Manhattan. We're at our summer house. We're going to stay here for the next 2 years or longer, and we need great connectivity, and we don't care what it costs. Like, we need to be able to do our work from wherever. And that is really becoming the battle cry, is that people, they can work wherever they want now. It truly is, I think I told you before I took this job, I worked for Silicon Valley, tech company, and I ran New York and London out of my East Sandwich house. And it was a challenge because the connectivity sucked. Now you can do, I mean, I literally have like pictures of me here holding like a golf club, trying to get my cell phone to work. But now Comcast has stepped it up some, not a lot, but some, and I'll give credit where credit's due. Also, you've got the arrival of like the Cape Spaces and the Chatham Works. We power both those places, the Hyannis and the Mashpee Cape Space locations, as well as Chatham Works, the co-working spaces, Provincetown Commons, also a co-working space. So there's a lot of connectivity out there, and we need to do more to expand that. So
it's great. It's amazing in 2 years how geometrically things have changed, and I think a lot of that change has occurred in the last year, but it's an amazing change since 18.
Significantly, yeah.
No, if you did you have more you wanted to say, or did you want to open up to questions? Or
I'm happy to answer. I mean, I've given you a good.
You've given us a great overview.
So the good news is, let me just reiterate this because this always becomes an issue.
Okay.
Open Cape is not in any sort of financial jeopardy. We are not going out of business. We are not going away. We are not being bought by the county, by McDonald's, by whomever starts those rumors. We are completely, and our 990s are available online. You can look at it. We're doing well. When I say we're doing well, we're not well enough to finance $100 million worth of builds, but we're doing fine. So that is good. We are growing. We're hiring. We're creating jobs. I have about 10 employees right now, and we employ about another 35 part-time contractors and whatnot to help us with our build teams. So we have a growing arsenal of people. I still don't have any trucks that say Open Cape on them because I outsource all my build stuff. So people will say that. They're like, how come I never see your trucks on the road? They're like, I see Comcast everywhere. And I go, Comcast is always breaking down. That's the simple answer to that question. But we are going to order our first truck this year so that we can do some work ourselves. So you will see an Open Cape truck, just one, because we're very thrifty, just thrifty over there. But we're going to have our own truck because sometimes it just saves us money. So,
Stephen, this is great. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Yes, Lily Green.
Oh, yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Stephen, for the overview. I do have a number of questions. I'm the Wellfleet delegate, and I know that you have in that 1.7 million allocated for Open Cape in the IT bond bill. It says strategic extension for Open Cape fiber backbone in Wellfleet, Truro, and Eastham. I know you gave a brief overview of that. Is it only that, or are you expanding to the beaches as we talked about the last time?
Sure.
And are there any other areas that you hope to expand besides, the Outer Cape Health and the nonprofits in Main Street and Wellfleet and other locations down here? And just Wellfleet in Truro and Provincetown, I mean, are our libraries, are all the libraries equipped with availability through the parking lots, or is it just Eastham?
Good questions. Thanks, Lily. So keep in mind when Senator Sear and Representative Peake called, I had about 24 hours to respond to them with something quasi-concrete. We had done the work in Provincetown and Chatham already. There's a host of things I could connect in Wellfleet, and I would never think to do that in a vacuum where I just said, I've got this much money. And so I would hope that I could sit with, if there's a broadband committee in Wellfleet, there's not. I just know there's not. But if we could have a group of the town manager, maybe the delegates from the assembly, concerned citizens, and say, okay, what makes the most sense to connect? And if I'm building my fiber, I always try to think about it this way. People say to me, "Oh, well, you've connected." Rich people call you and connect their homes. You better believe I'll connect their homes, because if I'm connecting a McMansion on the beach, I've got to build 5 miles of fiber to get to that beach, and I pass a whole bunch of other houses that those people are paying for. So I want to use this money as the best way I possibly can, and I wouldn't want to do that in a vacuum. So for me just to say, hey, this is what I'm going to connect in Wellfleet, I would never do that. It would be more of a discussion. In Chatham and Provincetown, we're a little bit further down the road there because I had talked with the town managers, the Board of Selectmen about these projects previously, and I had them ready to go. So literally, if the governor called me right now and said, hey, here's your money, we could start tomorrow on the process and planning for at least those two aspects. But I hope that answers your question. And then the other part you had about the libraries. So what we've done right now is I've set aside $50,000, and I'm working with the folks over at Clams. And we do connect 33 libraries on the Cape. I have the first proposal I've written is for Falmouth, where they wanted to put 3 new radios outside, about $1,800 in cost. So I'm going to pay for that. I'm going to pay for that, make sure they're up there. And if we need to increase their bandwidth, we'll do that gratis. And then we'll just kind of see how it goes from there. Some libraries are not necessarily conducive to expansion, like they don't have great parking or Main Street or whatnot. So we have to kind of go library by library. I don't know that we'll get them all in. It'll be a process, but we'll work to get them and solve these issues for folks. And there may be a better location than the library. It's just we're there in most cases.
Okay, so are you saying that Wellfleet Library is not connected? I mean, can people go to the parking lot and connect?
No, well, to my knowledge, unless they're doing it without my knowledge, they're not shooting their signal out into the parking lot currently. We're doing that in Eastham. We were pumping a gig of service out into the parking lot. They literally had to put up a sign that said, if you're sitting in the parking lot using the internet, like don't idle your engines and shut your lights off. It was that popular.
And also, am I hearing what you're saying is that if somebody who's wealthy, let's say in Wellfleet or Truro or someplace down here, that has a house on the ocean, that you're going to be running the lines out to the ocean. And because, again, the issue is the sharks. I mean, and if we have, and emergency services on the beaches. So, I mean, again, there are people on the Outer Cape that are very concerned about that and would really like to have the service out to the beach for those reasons. I know you said last time that you would connect it for free, but it meant that it had to be run first, I guess.
Right. So what we said was, the first time the shark bite happened, I set a group of our folks on that path. We looked at the 12 most visited beaches on the Cape, and we came up with a plan and an estimate on how much it would cost to run fiber to each one of those beaches. That's still, you can download it off our website. It's a significant document. And we talked about putting small cell or DAS at the termination point at every beach. So you wouldn't have a big tower, but you'd have enhanced cell phone capability and the ability to connect, or even put, if you wanted to, some sort of smart buoy that would automatically ping versus the more kind of the buoys that are now where they have to download that stuff. Yes, we have to build to there. So I think the cost, and I don't have it in front of me, I think the cost to build to those 2 beaches was close to $1.5 million. And we had sent that up the pipeline, shared it with the political delegation on the Cape. Nothing really came of it because I think the fervor died down. I do agree with you, and we love going to Head of the Meadow. My kids all surf. And they're terrified to go in the water right now. So I get it. I would love to, and that may be some of the strategic extensions we talk about, is in Wellfleet and Truro and Eastham. What makes most sense? Is it more sense to go inland toward the bay, or to head out and connect the beaches? So that may be something. And yes, we would provide the connectivity for any shark monitoring for free. We would do that for free.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I just need to interrupt. Ian, Pat Princey's trying to, there he is. Thank you. Anyone else have a question for Stephen Johnston of Open Cape?
Yes, Doug.
Doug Brown.
So, Steve, I thought I heard you say that the microwave to the vineyard is not the greatest, and the estimate for the line to the Nantucket was 25 million. So,
not just Nantucket. So that was, let me back up. So we shoot a 1 gig signal from Woods Hole, on top of one of the buildings at Woods Hole, to American Tower, just east of the Edgartown Airport. So my throughput on that, I shoot a gig over there. And anytime you go aerial via microwave, and this holds true to any sort of wireless connectivity, if you're in your house and you're getting 100 meg circuit.
Sorry, that's me.
That's okay. You're only going to see about 60 megs throughput. So for me, I'm sending 1,000 megs or 1 gig. I'm going to see about 600 megs on the ground. So it's not the most efficient, is what I was saying. The estimate, so there's a few big contractors that do this. We went to the guys that are doing Block Island right now. They're actually doing Block Island, one of our vendors. So it costs just like $5 million just to even get the boat here. Okay, I mean, there's outfitting the boat. It's a big, huge boat. It's laying cable. So the cost to go from Woods Hole to Martha's Vineyard and then to Nantucket, $25 million.
I see.
That's just to get the fiber from point A to point Z. And that doesn't even mean like we're going to run the fiber around the island. That's just getting us to the beach, in Oak Bluffs or in downtown Nantucket.
Okay, I just wasn't clear that you included the vineyard, so thank you.
Yeah, no, that was we looked at doing them separately. It's just more cost effective to go vineyard then Nantucket versus running a separate line to Nantucket, to the vineyard, and a separate line to Nantucket. It's all about cost efficiency.
Right, makes sense. Thanks.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Stephen. I think. Yes, I'm sorry, Patrick. Wait a minute. I see Patrick is waving. Pat, you need to unmute. I can't unmute.
I'm here. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks, Steve, for once again, giving us an annual update on what's been going on with Open Cape and so forth, and it's appreciated. Some of my thoughts are more along the lines of, this whole pandemic and remote learning and schools not having proper, mechanisms and infrastructure in place to adequately, service all. And further, it's my guess is that based on the prices of homes right now in the inventory is that we're going to become a year-round type economy, and secondly, we're going to have a lot of wealth here in the region that work for major corporations and conglomerates globally that might choose to settle here, but might not find that they have the adequate infrastructure in place. And part of what I've seen over the years is not enough collaboration with, some of the other entities that might have the wherewithal for infrastructure improvements. For instance, partnering up with Comcast, other utility companies to move things forward. I understand they all have stakeholders and shareholders involved, and that's their primary focus and not necessarily the residential end of it. But at the same time, I do feel that if there was some organization through an economic development outlet here in the region, through the Cape Cod Commission, with some other of the private utility companies all coming together, I feel like we could move a lot faster than we have in the last 10 years. And actually see some results for the residents that we all serve.
Sure. I mean, so let's look at the environment right now, and I'll address your Comcast question. So currently, Comcast is the 800-pound gorilla. They're serving the bulk of the Cape, southeastern Mass. Now, I look at my footprint because we cover the islands, the Cape, and then the southeastern Mass very differently, because off Cape, I've got Verizon Fios, Crown Castle, Extenet, Comcast. I have a bulk of competition off Cape. On the Cape, really, it's Comcast. Verizon has pretty much stopped coming across the bridge. So I have not one, not two, but 3 ex-Verizon employees that work for us at a very high level. And there's really no plans to. They've kind of said, they could walk away from the Cape, they'd be more than happy to. When I say Verizon, you have to remember you have Verizon, like Verizon Fios, and then Verizon Wireless, two separate entities operating under the same umbrella. With regard to Comcast, we go head to head with Comcast 10 times a week, if not more. So my bread and butter, what allows me to pay my staff, maintain the network, is literally taking clients away from Comcast. I will say that here. So since the time I last spoke with you, and one of the issues we had when we had CapeNet involved with Open Cape is no one wanted to connect to us because they were kind of weasels and they didn't like them, to be perfectly honest. Since then, we have connected South Coast Hospitals, that's off Cape. I've got 8 locations connected. I've got 6 Cape Cod Healthcare locations connected, Cape Cod 5 locations connected. So as we connect each one of these offices, branches, urgent care centers, we go deeper into communities. So that's part of that strategy that I talked about earlier about connecting businesses that are close to our network. 18 of Cape Cod 5's branches are within 500 feet of my backbone. So obviously I've been working with the executives over at Cape Cod 5 about how do we explore a plan to connect all your branches to fiber through Open Cape down the road. They also happen to be our bank, so it's totally self-serving on their part. But Patrick, I agree with you. I mean, remember, we're an open access network. So for example, let's just say last night I turned up 255 Main Street. There's 11 residences there. Comcast could come to us and say, knock, knock, knock. Steve, I know you collect those 11 residences. We want to ride your fiber into those buildings and offer Comcast service. They have no desire, no intent, no nothing to do that. They just don't want to do that. They want their own proprietary network, and they tolerate us, but we're like an annoying no-see-them mosquito in their face at the beach. You know, they kind of deal with us. They spend more on Post-it notes in a year than my entire budget. So they don't really see us as a threat. And again, they're also probably not too concerned if they lost every resident on the Cape. I mean, think about it. Do the math. There's 195,000 people on the Cape, and the average person pays whatever their Comcast bill is. Let's call it $125. That's $70 million a month. My Comcast bill is $364, just FYI, which is ridiculous. That's the other thing I have a problem with, is the cost. For those residents at 255, they're getting it free as part of their internet, but their cost to their landlord is $55 a month. So it's trying to make internet accessible. I agree with you, Patrick. We need to go faster and to find resources to do that. One potential place that may help us a little bit is the 5G effort, which, first of all, don't expect 5G here anytime soon. I know it may show up on your phone. That is complete marketing hooey. There's nothing, your phone is not 5G yet, and it won't be for a while. But the backhaul that these carriers need, T-Mobile, AT&T. I already have a deal with AT&T where we're connecting 72 of their towers. I'm in talks with T-Mobile to connect 92 of their towers, their locations. So that may provide me with some added revenue where I can move a little bit faster on some things. We do try to collaborate. We work, we work with Eversource and National Grid. Eversource, we have a special deal that allowed us to get our backbone up on the poles in what's called the neutral, because we use the ADSS fiber, which has no metal in it. It doesn't conduct electricity, so they were okay with that. So that allowed us to build. I'm on almost 20,000 poles on the Cape, and that allowed us to build relatively quickly without tons of expense. So, but we try to do that, Patrick. I just don't envision Comcast being overly welcome, just FYI. Yes.
It's really helpful information. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just have one quick follow-up, if it's okay, Madam.
We have also another presentation plus a hearing with people who wanted to speak. So I'm just
Okay, I'm just gonna
just
maybe
make it fast. Make it fast.
No, I won't. I'm gonna defer with your permission. I'll give Steve a call and talk to him at some point this week. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Lily, you have a question too?
Lily, I needed to move.
Yeah.
Very fast.
Maybe Steve could respond via email to us. If he could tell
I'm
us,
sorry, you're breaking up, Lily. I can't hear you.
if Steve could respond via email to us about
Excellent.
5G, when 5G does come here, what impact is it on his on Open Cape and the peering through the looking glass anyway? But maybe you can respond via email. Thank you.
We can also have Steve. We can also have Steve back too. If there's more interest in other topics, it certainly is a very timely subject right now. And I guess I was thinking it was going to be a quick overview, but I think that there's a lot of interest, obviously, and a lot of questions. But thank you so much, Stephen.
Okay. Yeah, then shoot me an email, call me. I'm happy to talk to you, answer any questions you have. And we are reaching out to the governor, trying to get him to release that $1.7 million. It's approved in the House and the Senate. He's signed the bill. So if he releases it, we can make some magic happen. But until that happens, we'll continue as we have.
Yeah, Lily is coming forward with a resolution to the Assembly today, later on in the meeting, to have us write a letter to the governor.
Oh, that would be great. That would be super appreciated.
Yeah, and she was surprised when she found out that you hadn't called me to come in and do a presentation to get a letter, that this was just totally, we wanted to hear from you, and it just happened to be an issue that's current. So we will be discussing that briefly later on in our meeting.
Well, I appreciate that.
We'll let you know how.
We've received tons of letters. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
Our next item is an update, and it says communications from the Cape Cod Municipal Police Academy Director, Peter Carnes. Peter, I see you. You have to unmute yourself, I believe. Can you unmute? Yes. Welcome. Nope, got to do it again.
Okay, welcome.
There you go.
Madam Speaker, it's a pleasure to be here. Greetings to you from the Academy staff and the directors of the Academy. I'm joined up there with Chief Wayne Sampson, retired from Shrewsbury, and also recently retired Wellfleet Police Chief Ron Fissette. And the three of us function as Academy directors. We're responsible for the day-to-day operation. And as we informed in a previous presentation, we work under the auspices of the Cape Cod Center for Public Safety Training, which the director is Mr. Phil Burt. So he has almost daily contact with us when we run our academies. Proudly, over 54 weeks, we trained 101 recruit police officers. They went back to Cape and Islands departments. They went back to some departments in the southeastern portion of Massachusetts. And on July 10th, 58 of those recruits went to 31 different police agencies in Massachusetts. They all met the standards of the curriculum from the state, from the Municipal Police Training Committee. They were awarded their diplomas. I have to tell you that running a police academy during COVID was a challenge. We were facing changes, major changes. We had to cut 140 hours out of our academy program, the curriculum. We also had to move. We had to move to a other location that allowed us to have social distancing. And the Coast Guard at the base was cooperative enough to allow us to take over a movie theater that's on the base and had 475 seats that we put 58 people in, spaced at 6 feet apart. So we were successful in our move. We were shut down for several weeks, and we opened up again in June, and were able to graduate the 58 officers on July 10th, and they went back to their departments. The Cape obviously was very well represented in this class, as was the islands and places like Barnstable, Orne, Chilmark, Dennis. We also had a number of officers from Falmouth, Aquina. We had officers from Mashpee. We had them from other Cape communities such as Sandwich Island community of Tisbury. Truro, we had representation. From the Vineyard, we had West Tisbury. And we also had officers, I believe I said Aquina already, who, met the mission that we were directed to follow of training Cape and Islands people first, and then opening the academy to outsiders. And the outsiders, of course, are from the southeastern Massachusetts region. This recent class, we went as far north as Norton, Massachusetts, for a young woman to be trained, as far west as Hubbardston. And each of these officers came to our academy every morning at 6, and they left every afternoon at 4 o'clock. So it was exciting for us. We're very proud of the instructors we have, the senior staff. It's my goal, and hopefully sometime we'll achieve that, is to have our total staff from Cape Cod. And that's a tremendous opportunity because these men and women will be networking with these instructors when they begin their professional careers. The support we've received from the county has been extraordinary. Jack Eunice, Steve Tebow have done a great job supporting the mission with Phil. And also Paul Tucker from the Fire Academy has worked with us, providing unilateral support when needed with equipment and, small things that might appear small at the moment, but shuttling water to the recruits on a hot day is huge for survival of these people and during defensive tactics or during different types of fitness training and things like that. We did, for the first time, to meet the challenge of COVID, we did interactive training. We, of course, did a lot of Zoom work, and we're able to do a lot of online training to make up the 140 hours we lost. So that was very important. One of the unique parts about being at Joint Base Cape Cod, we can do everything there. We can do our emergency vehicle driving. We have a beautiful gymnasium that we use. We also have the firearms training is done on the base. So we're pretty much self-contained at the base. The support from the Coast Guard, the National Guard, General Foe has just, it's been second to none. So we're giving a positive report to you that we've been a success for our second class. Our third class is scheduled to begin January 4th, 2021. And looking forward to 60 recruits showing up on day one and being part of our training program on Cape Cod.
Well, thank you. Now, Mary had requested an update. Mary, did you have any specific questions, or you just wanted a general update?
I was interested in an update on the program and specifically how training had to be adapted to COVID, since obviously police training involves a lot of physical activity. You mentioned what you did to use the theater to do social distancing. Are there other police training activities that you've had to reshape to keep everybody well?
Absolutely. We had to follow state mandates from the governor and also through the executive director of the Municipal Police Training Committee. And what they did, Mary, they shut down anything that involves physical contact. Defensive tactics where, maybe in the past you'd be putting handcuffs on people and things like that. They eliminated that. During many segments of the training, the officers were wearing gloves as well as wearing their masks, obviously. And also, we abandoned the parts of physical training that necessitated taking a shower during the day. So they did their showers at home. Anything that might involve physical training that would require a shower, we do that at the end of the day. They could drive to their own respective communities, to their homes to take their shower. They didn't do it with us. So social distancing in the classroom was probably the most obvious step. We required all instructors coming in to wear masks, also use hand sanitizer. And during the last few weeks, we get into taking people's temperatures during the day. So when people reported, we checked their temperatures to make sure nobody had any type of problem with the temperature or any symptoms. And also, we constantly reminded the 58 recruits that, had they had anybody in their family, to immediately report it to us and let us know if anybody at home had the symptoms. One thing that was remarkable, and I think many of us knew this, but there's some type of connection with the law enforcement field and the medical field. And it seems like a lot of our recruits, either their mother was a nurse or they were dating a nurse, or, they had somebody in healthcare in their family. So we had to sort of be a little more careful with that too, making sure that we got the information quickly. And we had plans in place. We worked with Phil. We worked with the county health folks. We had plans to test the class if we had any symptoms that we were concerned about. And the recruits would receive a test at the site that was at Cape Cod Community College. So we did quite a bit. We did everything we could, and hopefully it was enough. And even our graduation area was reduced. We had to only allow a few members of the family to come to the awards presentation. It was conducted outside, social distancing and stadium seating. And it was a challenge to do that, but we get the idea. We have to keep everybody safe, and we're willing to support that mission.
Thank you. And I do have a follow-up. I'm interested in the both gender and racial mix of your two classes and whether they are reflective of Massachusetts.
Yes, they are. And particularly when I am drawing recruits from the South Coast area, particularly New Bedford, from Brockton and places like that, we did have a number of minority graduates. Black and brown recruits were well represented in the class. And also, we also had a number of women represented that I think across Massachusetts, as far as having women in the class, I think we had the largest percentage of women recruits, which set us ahead of everybody else. And we support the concept of hiring minorities, particularly when you're in a situation that these men and women are going to go back and police communities that, have that reflection of color, that the department has to be in balance with the community. There's no question about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, John Oman.
Hi, thanks for showing us what's going on, Peter. That's much appreciated. Just to follow up with what Delegate Chafee said, have you got any creative ideas or ways that we can attract minorities and more women to these things through scholarships or any ideas that we can do to try to proactively bring that population into the policing departments on Cape Cod?
John, that's a good question. We have looked at this for years on how to attract minorities to Cape Cod to take police exams, to become parts of our department. I know many of the departments have had some success in that area. One thing we have to realize up front, we are training people that the departments give us. So the departments, for the most part, have already hired the individuals. So the need for a real aggressive diversity hiring program would have to be in the individual departments doing the hiring. One thing we can do, which I'm excited about the potential, and to be a little bit creative, we might just step outside the box a little bit with our mission and come up with a program that we could probably partner with 4Cs, with Cape Cod Community College, to provide resources for young men and women who are interested in coming into the field. In other words, how to get the job, how they can be better prepared, whether it be on the community college level, what they can do to improve as far as taking police exams and make themselves a better candidate. We do have on Cape Cod, we have two specific ways of hiring police officers. We have Barnstable, Bourne, Falmouth, and Sandwich are civil service departments. They require a test. Barnstable requires a residency requirement for their hires, which can be a challenge to say, I want the department to become 10% minority officers soon. I mean, you have to find ways to do that. The other departments, other than those that I mentioned, the 4 or 5 of them, are non-civil service. So they can do their own individual exam. They can interview their own candidates. And I'm sure with some work that the county can do adjacent to the academy, maybe in addition to what the academy does, we can co-sponsor with the college some type of academy preparation. One of the things that we're finding out, there are some physical requirements, and we have to meet what is known as the Cooper standards. In other words, these young men and women have to be in shape when they come to the academy. So one of the things we can do is early on let them know that they have to be prepared not only mentally but physically for coming into the police academy to pass. And across the state, there has been a significant percentage of men and women coming in who do fail the first time at the Cooper standards. And they have time to prepare, and they're designed by age. It's not everybody is held to one exact standard. The officer that's coming in at age 40 would have a reduced standard opposed to the person that might be 21. But I'm giving you a long answer to a short question, John. You can consider and will be willing to cooperate and work co-sponsoring a program with Cape Cod Community College. I employ the director of the criminal justice program, John Zooks, at the academy. He's already working for us, and we discuss all the time how we can do more for the young men and women of Cape Cod to get them jobs here on Cape Cod. This could be part of it.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Chief Carnes? Yes, Brian O'Malley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Mr. Carnes, very much for the update here. The following question reflects my role as liaison to the Barnstable County Human Rights Advisory Commission, which, as you may know, has been involved in a number of conversations with a number of the chiefs, including Fred Fredrickson of Yarmouth, of course, and a number of others, in the aftermath of the George Floyd Black Lives Matter movement. One of the conversations that has been recurrent through that has been about the question of, questions of both recruiting, of course, who are we recruiting, and what is the training like? And you've clarified and made clear a very important point here in terms of recruitment, that's done by the individual departments. And I would anticipate that there might be room there for programs that examine how we recruit, who we recruit, et cetera. But let me then focus on this question, since we're at the academy. What has been the impact of the last 4, 5, 6 months on your training program? What changes have been instituted to reflect what's been going on, and how there are, I can cite a number of the elements, but what training that involves, what initiates an encounter, what about escalation of force, what about the various tactics? What have you changed in what you're doing in response to what's been going on in the country?
Brad, that's a good question. We have followed the state mandates with the curriculum changes. We are every day in discussion with the recruits relative to use of discretion, relative to use of force. And Massachusetts has one of the best use of force policies in the country. Statistically, Massachusetts police officers use force far less than police officers from around the country in other jurisdictions. There's been studies out there. We're in the bottom numbers as far as infrequent use of force. because of our use of force policy. The use of force policy that has been in place for the past 10 years does not have things like chokeholds, okay? And I almost, I took the Floyd case so serious as far as training and how can we do better. Chokeholds are not on the table. Chokeholds are prohibited. You cannot do that in Massachusetts. And if you do it, it is a crime. Daily discussions with the recruits were held, not only with the defensive tactics instructors, they were also with our attorneys that teach the legal updates, with the different types of programs that get into what exactly you can do. Force cannot be done in every case of a contact with a person. There has to be some type of violence. There has to be some type of regulation. And use of force in Massachusetts starts with a verbal command. Stop, or don't do what you're doing, or whatever. And then, of course, it goes up the ladder gradually to the top rung, which, of course, is deadly force. And I don't want to say I'm proud to say, but it's worthy of saying, police officers in Massachusetts, it is very seldom when they use deadly force. And men and women that are hired, men and women who the young people were getting, and men and women that have been on the job 30 or 40 years have never fired their firearm or never used deadly force in their career. So it's a very rare opportunity. We're in the single-digit percentages on that. But that does not mean you do not continue to discuss it. I can tell you with our recruits, every one of them were appalled by what they saw in Minnesota. And they were proud that it doesn't happen here in that manner. Massachusetts is not Minnesota. It's not Georgia. It's not Texas. It's done differently here. And I'm proud to say it's well controlled. And I'm proud of the work of the chiefs. I find it a little bit ironic when I read the bills that were coming out on police reform. I supported such things as decertification of police officers, making changes in curriculums and things like that. And then I remembered that over the last 20 years, many of our police chiefs have lobbied. We've filed papers, we've written papers, we'd be proud to provide you with them on how we can improve policing. Decertification was there, accreditation was there, hiring police officers and paying them more for educational backgrounds were there. And many of those things were taken away because of funding issues with the legislature.
Thank you.
I'm very appreciative of that perspective. And I think it's clear that for all of us, no one wants to see another Minneapolis happening on the Cape.
Exactly, Brian.
Exactly. And so let me just ask as a subsequent, as part of this conversation has made it clear to me that the situations that you as police departments are responding to these days are really quite different than what we dealt with decades ago. That is, armed robbery in progress. That there's a tremendous amount of social service, health issues, substance abuse, overdoses, and that kind of domestic situations. Can you tell me about how you're working to compile that and to then go from there to affect what you do and what kind of people you're bringing into the program, who you're recruiting? Are we necessarily going towards a model where some of the officers need to be more, less physical people and more social interactive? Clearly that's a conversation that has gone on as part of this discussion, and it makes it seem like recruitment might need to be affected in that way.
Well, recruitment involves not only involves just the hiring practice or the hiring of the individual. It involves psychiatric testing of the officer. It involves a rigid background check, which would surface any type of violent behavior that person might have in their private life. It also might uncover any biases that they might have or any prejudice they might have. So my opinion on Cape Cod, we're doing a good job with that. We can always do better. And we also know that people sometimes change. I mean, you might be hiring a 22-year-old today, and by the time that person's 35, they may have views that are somewhat in a different direction, which is unfortunate. But we do hire from the human race. So as a chief that's hiring individuals, I want to make sure it's a person that's been tested. They can utilize good discretion. They're making good decisions. And in the academy, what we do, we get into role playing, and we bring professional role players in. We bring in people that have been, people from the battered women's shelter. We bring in people who have been involved in substance abuse. We let them get into role-playing situations with the officers, which I guess for lack of a better term, gives them real-time opportunity in the classroom for our recruits to see people under stress, people in difficult situations, and we monitor the responses. And the instructors at that time, if they don't see an appropriate response, they deal with it, not only at the moment, but also the recruits are tested on this. And based on passing the test and things like that, it is critical. I mean, it's all part of patrol procedures. It's all part of anticipating what they're going to be doing when they go on that 911 call. Now, I know probably the next question, I don't want to read your mind, but the next question on why are we sending the police to these calls sometimes when it involves mental health and things? And the short answer is they're dangerous calls. I mean, they're calls where people get hurt, people get killed. And I have a high regard for our domestic violence advocates and our social workers and things like that. But you can't be sending those people in there without protecting them and making sure that they're not going to become in harm's way quickly. Now, overnight in Wisconsin, a community service officer was killed going to a dispute, unarmed, basically a social worker, security guard combination went to a call that normally would be a police call, and that community service officer unfortunately was killed. And 35 years old, he was killed by a 65-year-old man having a mental issue. So very unfortunate. So we need the police for those calls.
I think also, I'm just going to jump in, just having done some drive arounds with Chief Carnes when he was chief, and I was alcohol and licensing chairman for the town of Yarmouth. And the calls come in and you have no idea what that 911 call is going to bring forward. You don't know if someone's impaired, if they're mental. And most towns on the Cape, or very few towns, have any really strong social services department. So the police become the front line in terms of unstable, unpredictable situations, but also because, even if you did have a social worker, I can tell you as a mother of a social worker, she wouldn't go into the situation knowing how unpredictable people can be on some of these calls. So it's great to have ideas about social services and things like that. But the reality is, I remember when Chief Carnes told me that the most increased unpredictable calls, this was a decade ago, he told me this, were the domestic.
That is true. Remains true today.
And having a chat with a couple that was fighting, to walking into a situation where you had to have backup because you don't know what's going to happen. So it's a whole different world today. And also we live on the Cape where we don't have big, strong social services departments as well. So
that is true. After 4 o'clock in the afternoon and on weekends, it's 911. It's your police officers, your fire department paramedics who are going to these calls. And there are multiple calls on a weekend for those type of services.
And yes, some of them might be appropriate for a psychiatric or a social worker, but you don't know that going in. So
very true.
Yeah, Doug, I wanted to get to Elizabeth and then I'll get to you. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have a quick question on your thoughts of the National Guard wanting to put a machine gun range at the base, and if they did, would that be something that the Academy would use?
Well, first of all, the police departments on the Cape do not use machine guns. They do have semi-automatic weapons and things like that. But I doubt we'd be using the machine gun range. We would be using the rifle range for what they call AR-15s and what they call patrol rifles. The military has totally different needs than what we have. They would have a larger caliber weapon that they would use during war. We don't use anything like that. We do use, there's I think 25 or more ranges over there. We do use their rifle range. We do use their handgun range successfully. And if they were to get a machine gun range over there, I'm not sure that they've had one recently, it would have no impact on us really.
Doug Brown.
Hi, Chief Carnes. So I appreciate the new recruits we have in Falmouth. It's great to get them. We really are shorthanded. And
Great.
We're actually going to be having a discussion about whether or not the civil service is really working for us. Talk about that soon. I'm wondering about the schedule for the next round of recruits. I think I heard you say that they're coming in January 4th.
That is correct, Doug. They're going to come in January 4th. It's a 20-week program. And what our goal is for, places like Falmouth or Barnstable or any of these departments that have busy summers, we want to get them out of the academy as soon as we can. So these recruits will be getting out of there in June. And at that time, your chief could be, putting them into what they call a field training opportunity.
Okay. And so my question is, you had a graduating class in July. Is there a class in place now?
No, there is not. And the reason there is not, it takes us time to sort of regroup from the class. And Plymouth is having an academy class right now of 48 recruits. And so Plymouth started theirs about 3 weeks ago. And one of the reasons we did not start up immediately is that the chiefs in the police departments need time to do the background checks that I previously mentioned. Start planning for their people. In October and November, we'll be doing the physical testing with the Cooper standards. And in reality, to get us any sooner than January, if we were going to do something, say, in December, we'd have the holidays, excuse me, and all of that. So it seemed more appropriate to schedule our class for the first week in January and do it then.
Okay, because I was just curious if it was another factor with the civil service delaying the process, or if it was just a schedule that you guys have worked out.
No, there is a civil service list that came out, I believe it would have been prior to the February class. So your folks in Falmouth would be already on that list, already in line, and I'm sure the chief has got that pretty well worked out. I'm looking, I think you got 7 people back from us in your...
Yes, we did.
And they're all tremendous young people. They did a great job. And also one of your officers is one of our instructors. He's one of our senior staff, one of your detectives. So there's a lot of continuity with the Falmouth Police Department.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for the update. We wish you well in these troubled times.
Thank you. Thank you.
We hope that you are able to get a very good cross section of new candidates for the Cape. I think that would be a real strength of this academy.
Well, thank you, Suzanne, and also to your members. We're available anytime to answer questions. I mean, we're happy to do that. Some good suggestions came up today. I know the Human Service Group is working with Chief Frederickson and Chief Sonnabend and Barnstable, and also John Ullman's suggestions on what can we do. I think we're going to see something come from that with Cape Cod Community College and preparing people to enter the academy.
Excellent. Keep us posted as you if there's anything that you do come up with in terms of a curriculum direction or a incentive section or whatever you do. We'd be very interested. Thank you.
Glad to do it, Suzanne. Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on our agenda is any communications from public officials. Now, if you are on the phone, you will need to use *9 to put a hand up, or you will need to use *6 to unmute. So if there's anyone, I don't see anyone, I don't think on the phone. I think most people have come in on the Zoom. Our next, I don't see any hands up for public officials. Now, the way our public hearing will go, our next item is communications from members of the public, and that is just for general assembly type comments or business. That will be followed by a public hearing on the proposed ordinance, which is the charter recall amendment. So people who have joined the meeting to speak about the recall amendment would do so under the public hearing, because that's specifically designed for input on that charter amendment. So if anyone, if there are any members of the public who are here to speak on matters other than the amendment. Yes, Muska.
Hi, thank you, everybody. So my name is Muska Yosef, and I'm a resident of Yarmouth. I'm also going to be speaking later about the amendment, but I did have a response that I wanted to give in response to the police officer that was just on here. I hope in the future that when you guys do have the police chiefs, you also include members of the community, especially people of color, to tell you their experiences with the police department on the Cape. I think it's one thing for the police chief to say that there is no problem in Massachusetts and that there is no problem on the Cape. I am a person of color on the Cape. I have many friends on the Cape. I'm an advocate and a civil rights attorney on the Cape. I can tell you that they have a very, very different story. I want to keep in mind that the records that are out there are only the reported cases. But of course, as we all know, if you have any kind of issue with a police officer and you file a complaint, it first goes into an internal investigation and it can die there where there is no record. Then also, because of qualified immunity, it is nearly impossible for there to be a legal record of any malfeasance against a police officer in the civil court. So just because you don't see any written records of problems, please do not believe that that means it does not exist. I also want to specifically address something he said about domestic violence. I'm a domestic violence advocate, and can I tell you how many of my clients have had horrible incidences with police officers on the Cape, one of which once said to me on the phone that he believed that maybe abuse was just part of Jamaican culture. And that was his justification for why he did not believe that it necessitated calling the on-call judge. I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but how domestic violence works if you get a restraining order. If something happens after work hours, after the court is closed, a police officer that comes on the scene has the ability to call an on-call judge. For some reason, the statute is written so that it is the police officer's judgment call as to whether what occurred rises to the level of abuse under the statute. If the police officer does not believe that it is abuse, the police officer will not call the on-call judge and tell the victim, wait till tomorrow and go to the courthouse. Any of you that have any experience with domestic violence should know that when the police are involved, those few hours afterwards are the most deadly times for a victim, in which the oppressor and the perpetrator could kill said victim. If you have a police officer who doesn't qualify that as abuse, and then she has to wait hours until the next day to go to court, she could be killed. And I have personal experience, and I can give you the departments if you are interested, of times where a police officer did not know what the standard was, could not define on the phone what the statute says abuse is. That is problematic. This should not be the police officer's call. That is giving legal advice, and they are not qualified to give legal advice. There are attorneys that have a difficult time determining what is and what isn't abuse under the statute. So I just want to say that I've had cases where a police officer didn't think something was abuse, and then it took me on the phone saying, what is the definition under the statute? They had no idea. So if they're getting properly trained, that's problematic. That I've had numerous conversations with police officers in different departments on the Cape that could not just basically tell me what is the statute under 209A. That's not proper training. Then I had to be on the phone with the police officer saying, call the on-call judge, leave it up to a legal expert. And you know what happens each and every single time? And I can give you evidence. The judge says, yes, that qualifies as abuse. So I just want you guys to understand that there is another perspective here, and the rosy picture that he just gave is not the full story. And I just want you guys to be aware of that. And I really hope you have more public hearings where you bring in the actual people in the community and the people of color that can tell you what's really going down. Because I can tell you there are racial slurs, there are allegations of sexual abuse happening to women, and there is negligence, what I would consider criminal negligence in how the treatment and understanding of training of domestic violence. So that's all I have to say about that. And then I will talk later about the recall.
No, thank you. Your comments are certainly appropriate, given that we're talking about the Police Training Academy, and certainly may warrant a further discussion. We, as the county, do support the Training Academy, so there is a bit of weight that the Assembly can ascribe to comments. All right, I think what we'll do is we'll go into, because I have several people here who I think want to speak on the recall amendment. So I'm going to open the public hearing on a proposed ordinance 20-17, the charter recall amendment. The recall amendment has been available publicly, electronically on the website, available through email. This was all published in the paper, many different forms of access to the document. I am not going to read the document. It is 3.5 pages long, but so people who have had an interest in it can certainly have had a chance to access it. The very brief summary of this recall ordinance is that it is a proposed recall for the county commissioners who are 4-year terms. It does not include Assembly of Delegates because they have 2-year terms, and there really isn't sufficient time to fit a recall into a 2-year term, whereas a 4-year term, you have a chance to go through all the required steps. So that is how the amendment ended up after charter consideration. Typically, we do have a sign-up sheet on a public hearing. I only heard from one person prior to the meeting, but Muska, I wanted to recognize you first because you had identified that you wanted to speak to this ordinance.
Thank you. So yeah, I wanted to just reiterate that I strongly support the recall amendment. The only concerns I have is that I have 2 big concerns. I was at the August 5th meeting, and my first concern is that I have a feeling that this is going to have a difficult time being passed due to the fact that it's only applies to the county commissioners. And I know that there was a discussion about how it didn't make sense to include the Assembly of Delegates since it was only a 2-year term. I do think if it doesn't get passed and further discussions have to be made and we have to go back to the drawing board, that the Assembly should reconsider making the term limits 4 years so that you're held to the same standard as the county commissioners. The second thing that I worry about is that at the last meeting, there was a motion passed to take out the words impropriety and misbehavior from the recall provision. I just want to express my deep disappointment that you all voted to eliminate those words. Anything that gives an elected official more leeway to avoid accountability is problematic to me. There's a reason why the subcommittee included that language in the draft, and I suspect it's because it gave more power to the people to call county government accountable for their words and actions. And if the amendment does not go forward and we have to go back to the drawing board, I truly hope that that language is reconsidered and added back into the amendment, because a right without an appropriate remedy for its violation is not truly a right at all. So thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Danielle, are you here to speak on the recall amendment? I see you are muted. Yes?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Danielle Toby. I recognize you next. You wanted to make a comment on the recall amendment.
Hi, yes, my name is Danielle Toby. I am Mashpee Wampanoag. I was born and raised in Barnstable, Massachusetts. I totally 100% support what Muska just said regarding the recall amendment. I do agree that the term should be extended to 4 years. And also, it is appalling that the language was changed to exclude misbehaving or, misconduct, especially at a time in this country where there's so much racial unrest, where we have Ron Beatty in office who is inciting violence in the community, in particular to myself and my own family. And my grandfather worked with many of you and knew many of you, and he dedicated his entire life to service in Barnstable. Yet my family is living in a place where we have to be careful, just in case people that he's associated with are around. It's so disturbing that people in the community just turn a blind eye to this behavior. I have children there, and my grandparents are there. My grandmother's there, and her 99-year-old grandmother. And I've had to teach them how to use the security system because of statements that Ron Beatty made on social media and inboxes that he left me. This shouldn't happen, So I just urge you guys to really consider the repercussions of not having a recall amendment, to having someone that can't be removed from office. And like I've said several times, everyone in the community has the right to feel safe psychologically and physically. In addition to that, I do have concerns regarding something that I read in the charter rules, and that was that no member of the Assembly of Delegates shall individually or collectively seek to influence the board of regional commissioners to dismiss, to appoint, or to promote any person to any position in the executive branch of the Cape Cod regional government. It's my understanding that Linda Zern, particularly—
Okay, excuse me, Danielle, yes. I'm going to interrupt you. This is a time for public comment, not time for specific individuals. I'll take general comments.
I do have—
No, that's not, I'm warning you right now. I run a very tight meeting. And one of my rules is you respect each other. You do not go after each other at a meeting. And I will apply that to speakers as well. So everyone has an opinion, but I don't believe in personal attacks at meetings. So I'm warning you, Danielle, I have been known to mute and or remove people if they don't follow the rules. So I'm just telling you, believe me, I do this with the assembly members. If any of them goes after any of the other ones, I shut it down quickly, and they frequently get a lecture from me. So I just want people to be able to express their opinions, but not have individual attacks on people.
That's not my intention. My intention is to have some accountability. That's my intention. And I just would like to know how you guys are holding each other accountable to what the rules are.
Well, in general, as elected officials, each elected official is accountable for their own behavior. The assembly does not have authority over other assembly members in terms of reprimanding or even having a vote of no confidence, as each one as elected individuals stands on their own and is responsible for their own. So we're not policing each other, I guess, or responsible for each other. That's you have to live by a code of ethics.
I understand that. So who do you have?
The electorate. The electorate. Every 2 years, the delegates are elected, and if there's something that the delegate has done, whether it's behavior, whether it's absences, whether it's their philosophy, their votes, how they behave, whatever it is, their town has the ability to not elect them every 2 years.
Excuse me, Suzanne, I understood it to be
Excuse me, Masaka, this is not a debate.
Excuse me, please pronounce my name correctly if you're going to talk to me, okay? It's very disrespectful.
Okay,
to not pronounce my name correctly as a person of color. So I want to say, number one, you can mute me.
No, you may not speak. Danielle, I'm going to move on to the next person now. We have, and I'm sorry.
I just want to say that I feel silenced, and I feel as if you are blocking me from saying what needs to be said. So I am very appalled at how you run your meeting and how you're blocking people from speaking, especially when we're speaking respectfully.
Danielle, let's leave.
And I would support Danielle in her objection to being silenced.
No, you will hear from us about this. Okay. So do not think that you can silence us here. Bye. I don't want to have any discussion with you. Danielle,
Ian, will you please remove
wait, this is ridiculous.
Remove the person interrupting the meeting.
If you want people of color,
if you please remove Ian, thank you. Now, I'm going to just say, excuse me, I'm going to recognize other people, but I am going to tell you, I have had ongoing and long communications with Muska and Danielle. We have had, and I'm happy to share the emails of trying to explain the assembly and how it works and how the regulations are and the charter and everything else. And I've offered to talk to them on the phone. They have never given me their phone numbers. I've asked for their phone numbers. This is not, in my opinion, necessarily a honest communication so much as a wanting to express an opinion and doing it in the way they want to. So I am telling you the background on this is I have spent a lot of time with both of them emailing and offered to talk to them on the phone to answer questions. But the bottom line is it was not the interaction. It was the wanting to question and challenge and not understand the charter. Now I'm going to go back to the ordinance. And Rose Parkington, are you here to speak on the recall amendment ordinance? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here to voice my support for the recall amendment. I am disappointed as to what just happened. I do feel that two voices were cut off in the middle of what they were saying. I understand that you had previous conversations with them, but it felt to me that you cut them off in the middle of what they were saying and kind of ridiculed them in front of this whole group of people during a public hearing, which didn't feel
I never ridicule. I am never, that is how I run my meetings, with respect. And that is why I don't allow people to attack each other. And I know people would like to let other people speak and take over meetings. I've been at this for a long enough time that there are certain meetings that are public and certain meetings that are for the public. And this meeting is to take public opinion on a certain issue. This is not a public hearing on anything other than this ordinance. If we had a public hearing on something else, then there would be, that topic would be open. So, and I did allow a lot of comments. I know, and that's the problem. This is why I wanted phone numbers. People don't understand. People don't understand. Okay, so, okay, I am going to, if you want to adjust the ordinance, that's fine. Otherwise, comments on the way I run a meeting, you can certainly send me those comments, or next assembly meeting.
There's not that many people here to speak, besides the, for this public opinion. So to cut people off,
the public opinion is on the amendment.
And they were speaking to the amendment. I'm very appalled. They were speaking to the amendment. They were cut off.
Okay, fine. You're appalled. You don't like the way we run our meetings. I hear you. Okay, anything else?
Nope, just that I support the recall amendment. And I hope
you'd be happy to know I'm not running for re-election, so you won't have to deal with it.
No, that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm more concerned about, having people's voices being heard and not being shut down during a public
if they're
hearing
on topic, I'm perfectly willing to hear them. And if they're not personal, I'm perfectly willing to hear them. And there'll be different leadership that may operate differently next time, but next session. But this is the way I have developed my leadership style. And that's the way it is for now. All right. Anyone else from the public who needs to address the amendment? Is there anyone else? Okay, if anyone's on the phone and they want to be recognized, they need to do a *9. I don't see that. I have a couple of phone calls. This is how this all started. People didn't know how to unmute their phones to get in. Okay, then I will close the public hearing on proposed ordinance 20-17, the charter recall amendment. I will convene the assembly and we will have a discussion and vote on proposed ordinance 20-17 charter recall amendment. I'll take a motion to put the amendment on the floor. The recall amendment, ordinance 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so moved by John Oman, second by Elizabeth Harder. Any further discussion from the assembly?
I would just,
yes,
with what happened, I think perhaps if you know there might be people speaking who have a problem with something and you've been dealing with them with email, it might be helpful to the rest of us to let us know that ahead of time so that, you know, share those emails with us. It sounded to me like Danielle, I think her name was, had personnel, had questions about interference in the community, in the commission. And that seems to me to be something that we should be made aware of. But I'm not sure what she was getting at, but I feel like we need to be kept informed if there are questions like that, because that does sort of, if there were being interference somehow, that would be something that would be relevant to the recall discussion, because it might make us want to think about having a way for the assembly to be responsible for the bad behavior of other delegates. So that's all I'd like to say.
Yeah, and that could be a matter for a charter review. I think there's I'm happy to share emails, but some of the stuff I think is might be personal history stuff, and I don't know about sharing that. There've been, some personal stuff that was shared. So well, that certainly is an option. Yes, Brian O'Malley.
Madam Speaker, it seems to me that it is quite germane to the charter amendment that we're discussing that we have a public official who we are being informed by a member of the public has been personally abusive. We need to know about that. Where is an individual in the community supposed to go? Who are they supposed to talk to? We're now appointing ourselves as a recall body. And what we're being told today is we can't hear about that because it's personal. That's a contradiction. And
No. I am telling you that the understanding of the charter was challenging. And I attempt to explain the charter in terms of what the assembly can do in terms of what kind of authority we have over other assembly members or over the commissioners. And you know that we don't have authority over the commissioners and we don't have authority over other assembly members. And I tried to explain that. And there was an issue with, taking language literally from the charter and misunderstanding it. And rather than talking to me so that I could explain it, it was brought forward as the misunderstanding. So there's been personal experience with one of the commissioners. It's very complex, very convoluted, very time consuming. And I was hoping to stick to business as opposed to getting down to people's personal agendas that frankly go off track. And I know you will like to hear from people, and that's certainly your prerogative. But right now, I think it's my business to move the meeting forward. And I think looking at the other people, I think that there's a lot of agreement. Yeah, yes, Mary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to remind us all that we are on item 14, a assembly discussion and vote on a proposed ordinance. And I think that we need to remain focused on that discussion. And if there are concerns about a individual matter, this is not the time or place to address it. And that needs to be done in a different venue. I also wanted to point out that since we've been in this meeting, the clerk did email us 2 other email from the public expressing opinions. Both were in support of passing the recall amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. I haven't seen the emails. Thank you. All right. Are we ready for a vote? Will the clerk please call the vote?
Douglas Brown.
Yes.
Just one moment, please. Mary Chafee.
Yes.
Terrence Gallagher.
Yes.
Lillian Green.
Yes.
Elizabeth Harder.
Yes.
Christopher Kanega.
Yes.
Suzanne McAuliffe.
Yes.
Thomas O'Hara. Thomas O'Hara, thumbs up, or you're muted.
I can't unmute you, Tom. Okay.
Thomas,
Yes.
thank you. John Oman,
Yes.
Brian O'Malley,
Yes.
Randy Potash,
Yes.
Patrick Princey,
Yes.
Linda Zern.
No.
Madam Speaker, proposed ordinance 20-17 passes with 80.34% of the delegates voting yes, 9.15% voting no, 10.51% are absent, now known as ordinance 20-10.
Thank you. Now this charter recall amendment, as you know, has missed the deadline in terms of getting legislative action for this year. I saw Attorney Troy here earlier. I don't see him here now. But what we can do is have him write an email if there's anything that we can go forward with legally at this point. But it's my understanding that this is now an ordinance. It's in effect. It will go to the commissioners, and however they vote, it may or may not come back to us. But then it'll be there for the assembly going forward to take action on, at a future date. But it is not. I don't want anyone to think that this means that it's going to be sent up to the legislature right now, because the timing is not right to get action that way. But by January, the clock starts again, and the assembly can certainly go forward with this as an action that they have taken. So I want to applaud people. This has been on the books for 10 years. And I think that the subcommittee did just yeoman work on this. And I want to applaud you for doing something that I think the assembly really wanted to take a stand on and wanted to go forward with. So thank everyone on the subcommittee for getting us to this place.
Madam Speaker?
Who's speaking?
Yeah, this is Bob Troy. I'm sorry.
Ironically,
I'm sorry.
You were listed as Bob Troy.
Yeah. Ironically, I lost my internet connection, which I don't know how I could have after hearing about OpenCape, but yeah, I lost it, and so I had to call back. So, if I might,
yes, please,
just address the issue. What is required under the charter is a petition, and we have decided to do that through the ordinance process. So from this point on, the ordinance will go to the county commissioners. and they will vote on it. If they vote affirmatively, in other words, if it passes by at least two commissioners or three commissioners, we will have then perfected what we need to do. And at that point, we can submit the petition to the legislature. And I talked to Janice about it yesterday. Essentially, what we would do is we would simply kind of wrap a petition around the ordinance. So the ordinance could be acted upon in the form of a petition, and it can be filed with the legislature. That obviously, it will not be on the ballot on this November, but the legislature, once it is received, can process it. And my recommendation would be to send a copy of the petition to all of the Cape Cod legislative delegation.
Excellent. Okay, so we can still go forward. It just won't be this November that it's dealt with.
Correct.
Excellent. All right. Anybody have any questions for Bob Troy? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. The next is committee reports. I don't believe we have any. Brian, has Human Rights met at all? No? No, okay. I'm waiting for him to unmute.
Sorry. Yeah, they have met. There's planning for events going forward, but I don't have any special announcements at this point.
Okay, okay. Report from the clerk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm just going to be working in the next few weeks with, again, scheduling public hearings on the proposed ordinances that were submitted today. And perhaps I think another item that's going to be coming forward from Delegate Green, scheduling for the next meeting. But that's it. That's all I have to report today.
Great, thank you. Under other business, I had communication with Lillian Green, and I'm going to turn it over to you for your resolution.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'll keep it very short. I've submitted a resolution that's been co-sponsored by a number of the delegates, and you have received a copy of it via email from the clerk, and I'll speak to the resolution at the next meeting. There may be an addition to this, because I did reach out to each entity to make sure that it would be a helpful resolution and letter to the governor in a respectful manner. And I'm still waiting to hear back from the college, but there is, in the IT bond bill, there is designated $100,000 or more for the community college to help with people who have issues with technology as a result of the situation now. So thank you for your time.
And this will be before us at our next meeting, and I think the timeliness is perfect. Thank you for catching this.
Thank you.
Anyone else have other business? I had two very quick items. One was in terms of going forward with charter review. We had talked about whether we wanted to do anything more going forward with charter review. I'm not convinced that we have really a lot of time to do that. So I guess it would be my recommendation that perhaps we wrap up charter review for this session. And then if there's further charter review, another charter group can meet next session. I think right now, if we attempted to do some of the language changes and do some of the housekeeping quote cleanup things, it might start to run over and run long. If anybody disagrees with that and they want to go forward, please let me know. It seems like we're running out of meetings this session to do what we need to do, to have the charter review committee meet and then have it go before the assembly. Second thing was I've had some communication from some of the assembly members about meeting in person. I think that the commissioners are thinking about going back to in-person in January up in the East Wing room. Right now, as the administrator pointed out to us, with the 25-person limit in a indoor public meeting, it would be a challenge for us to meet until the governor kind of releases that number a little bit, because we can have 25 people without even having many of the public, just between staff and a couple interested parties. I really did want to meet in person. I've been very frustrated by the inability to have public input. This is really the first meeting that we really had a lot. And the inability to have a little bit more of a open government look. It's challenging for people to get on Zoom. It's challenging for people to get on the phone. And I think it's much easier for people to go to a meeting. But I understand that times are what they are. So I will monitor the situation for the fall, but I think maybe looking forward to January when the commissioners will meet, but we can, if suddenly something in the next month or two gets really improved and we're doing well, we could consider that. I'll take a motion to, is there anyone else? Yes, Chris.
Just quickly, I would challenge us to go ahead and have a meeting and have it be the governor that's preventing the public comment.
Always, yeah, I was gonna say, always looking for a little bit of a there. You are quite the activist.
Well,
yeah,
same.
yeah, I'm, okay, Patrick agrees. All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.